Hello, everybody, and welcome back to whatever the name of this Milan podcast is. Milan defeated Sampdoria 5-1. I'm Martino Puccio. That's Matt Santangelo, as you could see. Very nice victory for the Rossoneri after getting eliminated in the Champions League, albeit it comes at the foot of one of the worst teams in Serie A team that is getting relegated in Sampdoria. But regardless, Milan needed a match like this. I thought the goal conceded was very embarrassing, but all things considered, you can't really get upset when your team takes care of business like this. Milan's hopes for the Champions League and top four is still alive after Inter's loss today, which is when we're recording this because we wanted to wait a little bit. Lazio end up beating Udinese away. We'll see what the verdict is with Juventus. They also play tomorrow. If you're watching this on Monday, they play today. But Matt, overall thoughts on this beatdown? I mean, this really wasn't. I mean, it was close for a few minutes, and then Milan just ran rampant.
They needed one of these in the worst way. Let alone a victory. They needed a easy, cozy victory that was like, okay, let's get back in the win column. Let's put up a lopsided number there. Let's get some goals to pour in. And let's hope that Milan can finish the season strong. They got Juventus next weekend, and then they finish with Verona. So another relegation potential team right there. So overall, the performance was good. You know, it's really difficult to get just sort of gassed up for this result. I saw it was the first goal, and then Quagliarella gets the goal, and I'm thinking, here we go again. We're gonna have to grind out another victory here or a draw.
Yeah.
But credit to the guys, right? We got the second, we got the third going into the halftime. So it put me at ease. I'm sure put the fans at ease, and then it was great to see different guys in the attack get some good goal contributions, especially Sandro Tonali, right? I know we're going to talk about Giroud, right? But Sandro Tonali specifically, he had a couple key passes in the build-up to some of these goals. I know he had the really good threaded ball to Leao that Leao eventually earned a penalty on. He had the assist to Brahim in the second half as well. So, and I think you tweeted it out, right? The further we've
That's
seen
exactly what I'm proving. I'm pulling it up right now. But go for it.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. As Sandro Tonali's been able to get a little bit further up the pitch and more so in front of goal, we're starting to see the creative aspect of his game, right? We know the comparisons that he draws to Gennaro Gattuso, and he even talks that he emulates his game more after Gattuso than Sandro Tonali. But you see where he has these glimpses of him being able to be a producer in the final third, and this is one of those instances where it's not a matter of chance creation. Milan create a ton of chances. There's a very interesting stat out there as well.
I have that as well. They're both loaded up. Yeah, perfect.
They're I know you see, like I know you, Martino. I know you're going to pull up, but overall it was a strong performance. It's exactly what the doctor ordered in front of the home fans after some really difficult results, both in Champions League and the reverse fixture against Spezia. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Juventus, the point deduction,
and also their match against Empoli.
The match against Empoli. But regardless, Milan have their work to do. They have their work cut out for them. They got to get something against Juventus next weekend. And, away we go, and we'll see where things stand, after 38 match days.
Yeah, just really two finals left. Inter have to play a few matches in between each other. They have two cup finals and the two Serie A matches. One of those matches after the cup final in Coppa Italia against Fiorentina. Then they have Atalanta on a short turnaround. Then they have to get ready for the biggest game in 13 years for Inter. For me, just really quick with that, I think it favors Milan. The Gagliardini red card today, the double yellow sees a suspension for him. That's one less option that they could use. They're going to be forced to either use him in a cup final against Fiorentina, or they have to make some other moves. The rotation has to be very key here for Simone Inzaghi. Them dropping points, there is a very real reality for Interisti. They might not want to hear it, but there is a reality in which they lose two finals and miss out on the top four. I will just say that. We'll leave it there. Wanted to touch back on the Sandro Tonali stuff in the creation. That's 9 goals and assists in Serie A. He's a central defensive midfielder. He's being deployed as such. He also has to take on more responsibilities as a defensive midfielder this season because he lost the best defensive midfielder in Serie A, arguably, and that was Frank Kessie. The fact that he has still managed to do this is so impressive. and I've said this, and you were talking about it, and I know you agree with this. The closer this kid is to goal, the better off Milan are. He's a
Yeah,
fantastic athlete. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's
yeah.
actually one of the most athletic midfielders in the world. Some people just don't want to agree with it because of the haircut or something. He's a better athlete than Pirlo or Gattuso ever were. Um, he's obviously not as technically sound as Pirlo was, but he's technically better than Gattuso, in my opinion, in terms of technique. Gattuso wasn't scoring some of these chances or creating and threading some of these
Mhm.
passes at the level that Tonali does or the frequency in which he does it. And there's nothing wrong with Gattuso. He's the best ball winning midfielder I've seen in my life at Milan. So I'm not going to, 2003 Champions League final. Go look it up for yourselves if you haven't seen it. But again, the dominance from him, and then we'll even head over to this part with the big chances. Oh, whoops, you're not able to see it, but I'll pull it up real quick. But
Mhm.
Badir pulled this up, and it's just all the chances. He does stuff for Sempre Milan. He's obviously a very popular Milan account, but he brought up the chances. Look at this. 102 chances within this. And my quote tweet is in here as well. So 102 chances created for Milan. And this was the reference that I wanted to mention with this. And I'll zoom in as best as I can so everybody could see this. Inter only have 6 more goals. Well, 7 now because they scored. And remember, Milan getting the 5 obviously increased it so much, but that was against Sampdoria. Badir posted this after the Milan match. So again, Inter are creating nearly 20 less chances, but have scored 7 more goals. That
Mhm.
speaks to the clinical finishing that Milan lack. Again, Napoli 10 more goals. We know how great they've been finishing. Atalanta one less. They obviously won their match. Juve and Lazio game in hand as well. Lazio only won 1-0. That was on a penalty, kind of soft. But it just proves that if Milan can get guys in here that are a top level striker, that isn't someone who's 36 years old, no disrespect, even if Giroud did this. Um, there was also one more stat that is very important with this, which I couldn't pull up after. But Matt, you knew this, you saw this. Milan did not have a hat trick from their number 9, a player who wore the number 9 jersey for this club. Okay. Iconic club since 2009. I was a freshman in high school the last time that took place. Okay. Pippo Inzaghi was the one who scored the goal, or they scored the hat trick. And the number 1 song in the world at the time was Boom Boom Pow by Black Eyed Peas, just for reference and how long it's been to really
Yeah,
bring that back to people. Um, Great match from him. He finished his chain. He could have had more. He could have had 4 or
yeah.
5 in this one.
There was a couple. Yeah, there's a couple saves that the goalkeeper. I mean, the goalkeeper, credit to him. He did all he could do. I mean, Sampdoria's defense is horrendous.
Garbage, garbage,
It's
garbage. They made
terrible. Yeah,
Milan look fantastic on set pieces. If you
like
do that,
Harry
then you know you're
Winks.
not great.
Yeah, like Harry Winks, like absolutely letting Brahim Diaz, and no disrespect to Brahim Diaz, he has the capabilities to do this against some of
Correct.
these
Yeah.
teams, and this is what he should be doing, right? Like,
Yeah, that's the
if if
frustration. This is where
if,
it
if
comes
we're
from.
being honest, like we've seen him have good performances against good teams, but he should be absolutely running right through these mid to provincial sides. Like, it should be a field day for some of these players on this team. We should
Yes,
be
I agree
dominating
with
these
you.
teams like
I agree.
Cremonese, Empoli, Salernitana. Like,
Yep.
this is what we should be doing. So we can give credit to Brahim. We can give credit to some of these guys for what they did. But and you're going to look at Brahim's numbers at the end of the season. You're going to think, why are Milan fans so against keeping this guy? But he's
Yeah.
had instances where it's like, okay, he'll get 1 goal and 2 skew numbers. He's had
Yep.
his best statistical season for Milan. If we look at
Yeah.
his seasons at Milan, he's this is his best year. He's more goals, more assists, and people
Yep.
would probably lead you to believe that, like, why would you want to keep him? But the fact that he's not consistent enough and it's in very
Yep.
small sample sizes is what makes it more frustrating, because he's doing back heels. He's like that left-footed assist to lay out for the first goal. I mean, that's a great pass. Like,
Yep.
that game yesterday was like, it was satisfying to see, but at the same time frustrating, because you're like, the guy has it, but he doesn't channel his qualities consistent enough to the point where you're just like, all right, we got to keep
Because
this
he's
guy.
not. He's not. He's
I, for
nothing
one,
without
have always been
space. Go ahead.
I've always been someone on the side of, well, the money's going to dictate everything, because people say, I don't want to keep this guy. Well, I'm saying, hold up, if you
Yeah.
can get him for 12 million, 15 million, maybe something to consider. It's not going to happen. I think most reports are saying he's leaning towards renewing with Real Madrid. Real Madrid want to bring him back. My guess is
Yeah.
they'll probably keep him as a rotation piece. He might spend a season there, and then he might get loaned out somewhere to Sevilla or whoever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is the type of result you wanted to see, especially heading into the Juventus game. You need to build some momentum, and
Yep.
getting a 5-1 cozy victory is exactly what we needed. And I know the segment here is top four. With some of the other results happening the way they did, especially the Inter one, it does leave some room. And I thought with the Napoli game it was going to be interesting because Napoli don't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
They will they rest guys? Will they get up for this? And they played a pretty strong lineup. They played a pretty
Yep.
strong game, and that result definitely helps Milan. Lazio
And
get
they
the
subbed
result
out
they need,
Osimhen
but
early. Yeah.
yeah, and you hope things shape up the way they're supposed to, or you hope, but at the same time, I look at the table and I see like 2 points back of like Lazio in top four, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Martino, like, give me one win against Cremonese. You know what I'm saying? Like one win
Yeah.
against
Of course.
Cremonese,
Of
and it's like
course. Of
there's the
course.
difference. There's the
0 wins
difference.
against Sassuolo.
You
Just like a
know?
couple of teams, like I could handle like one loss against Inter, one win against it. I could do that
Right.
against the top clubs. I can't excuse it. Even Fiorentina doesn't bother me as much. I think it was the performances within that match. It's not about the
Yeah.
result itself. There's
Yeah.
a difference. Brahim Diaz, again, I've said this for years. I don't dislike the player at all. I think he's a nice player. I think he really embodies what Milan is supposed to be. I think he does put in a lot of effort. If
Yeah.
his physical limitations are his physical limitations, fact of the matter is this: Brahim Diaz can always look great in open space. It's when the space closes and he has to be physical, in which he gets you in trouble. It doesn't happen enough. And in Serie A, it's not that type of league in which you will have a lot of space, because we see time and time again when we talk about Milan against a low block, they cannot break it. Brahim Diaz, if he was a player that is able to break the block, then he would have already been redeemed by now. But he's not going to be at this point, especially at the rumored prices. Marsa is like 30 million euro, not even close. They're not gonna entertain anything over 15 million. I bet you they're not even gonna go above the 20 million that was negotiated to begin
Yeah.
with. So I think everyone needs to take a step back, breathe. It's not gonna be that situation. And hope for top four. I mean, listen, like we were just saying, drop results. It would be undeserved. From what I'm reading, everyone was saying 3 to 9 points with this deduction with Juventus, but more and more rumors are saying it's minus 12. And they're going to put in a deduction that will eventually cripple Juventus enough that they can't do anything. Milan are actually even close, anyways, prior to this deduction. This deduction comes in at a 12 or even a 9. Milan's in pretty good shape to get back in the
Yeah.
Champions League. That also means, again, the verdict is going to be happening after the Empoli game. We'll see what happens with that. They
Yeah.
drop points there. That's even a bigger mess for them. And then that makes that match on the 28th against Juve all that more entertaining and dire. And again, it very much resembles when they won 3-0 away when the season was closed behind doors. For me, I do have some confidence. Verona also themselves are going to be going down to the final day swinging to see if they could
Yeah.
stay up. It's a very close race with Spezia and others in that spot. We'll see what ends up happening. But for me, I do have some faith in this. These guys are getting regularly rested. I don't think you necessarily need a Benacer to beat these two sides. We'll see what happens. I think Krunic is enough with this. But I do really want to talk quickly before we wrap things up here. The substitutions by Pioli or lack thereof within this match kind of worried me a little bit. I didn't understand the Macias thing the entire time, or even starting him. I thought Salamakers has been better than him as of recently.
Mhm.
Form, just fit within the formation that you want. Um, CDK coming on is okay, but I don't understand why Yassine Adli has zero feature here. I understand the substitution of Tonali. I think it took a little too long to sub out Leao or even the likes of Giroud. You have 2 matches left. You have actually a lot left on the table. That match was put and sealed away. I think that's just a microcosm of what Pioli has been in 2023. And it's not technically, and I said this, it's not tactically bad all the time, but personnel wise, it makes
Mhm.
zero sense to me. And that's been the most frustrating part about this, is because if you look at Yassine Adli's log and games that he gets into, and it's not just Adli himself
Mhm.
to use, but he's a perfect example. He's getting in these matches. He's doing pretty decent with these opportunities, and then you never see him again.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of what happened to Jens-Peter Hauge. Hauger was a different situation. He was behind a couple of key players. There's not many players in front of Yassine Adli at this point.
Yeah.
To me, I understand where Adley's future is going to be. It's most likely a loan, best case scenario, in my opinion. I don't think they've really figured this out tactically. But what did you make of these subs or lack thereof, or how long it took? I just thought it was a little silly for how long.
Yeah, it's a little weird too, especially given the fact that like Giroud, not far removed from an injury. He's getting
Hmm.
up there in age. You really need him. I know there's only 2 games left. I get that, but you need him absolutely at his peak for the Juventus game. And the same thing with Leao, right? Leao's just coming off an injury.
Yep.
It was pretty evident in the performance against Inter. He wasn't full. He wasn't 100%. He obviously gave it a
Hmm.
go, and people, said, where was he in that game? They're going to be harsh and critical. There's trolls, but like the fact of the
Yeah,
matter
they're
is,
trolls. So.
he wasn't 100%, and he's getting absolutely blanketed. We were
Yep.
swinging long balls into Giroud with 2 defenders on him. So like it's kind of stupid and silly to be
Yeah.
talking about that. But I think that this would have been the perfect game to experiment with an Adley, right? You're up 4-1, like
It's like
bring in
when
bring in Bronx, unless of course
he was
there's
he was hurt for this one, so he wasn't on the team
okay.
sheet.
But saying
Yeah,
maybe
I agree.
there's just like there's certain guys you're just asking, you're like Adley couldn't get a 15-20, like he couldn't get a 20-minute go. Like he really couldn't get 20 minutes in this game to maybe get some more confidence and to kind of really like assess where we are with him and what his development is and all these sorts of things. And you almost feel for him because I find it hard to believe that everyone thinks, well, Pioli sees the guy in training. Maybe he don't like something. Maybe he's got an attitude problem. We haven't heard anything of that from the
Yep.
Italian media. Nothing from Gazzetta. Nothing from the main papers. And you know how they like to capitalize on a dire situation, and they like to
Yep.
say, "Oh, Ali and Pioli have a rift, and he's going to be leaving, and players are
Where are the
upset with how
journalists
Pioli's going."
asking these questions? They ask questions about the Ketelare all the time.
Every
Obviously, he's
time,
the big name, but it's like
every time.
where is just one singular question?
I
Hey,
just,
Stefano, you had Yassine Adli on last week.
yeah.
Is there a reason as to why he's not playing? Did you not see something you like?
Is he
Where are
not
the
getting pressed?
questions?
Is he not getting pressed on this?
Never.
I see people like on Twitter and pretty prominent like journalists and like media members, mentioning like how is Adley not getting like 20 minutes? Like we're seeing pockets of good glimpses of quality, and obviously we've harped on this so many times, Martino, this whole entire season. It's pretty obvious that everyone has been talking about this since he's his good preseason, and everyone's thinking, okay, like spent
And he
8
got
games.
some minutes to start. I think there was a game against Verona where he got like 60 minutes. I was checking
Yeah,
it the other day in the first half of the season prior to the World Cup. He disappeared.
it's
And
almost
that's yeah, go.
no, it's almost as if it's like he has to be absolutely like the final man to go in. And listen, who knows if we didn't see injuries in the central defense, like how much little minutes would Malik Chow have gotten, right? Like we only saw Malik Chow because it was, well, who else is going to play in this game? We don't really have much depth. We had Kair's injured. We had
Yeah,
Lorenzi was injured.
correct.
Calabria was injured. Your
Hmm.
Kalulu shifting between right back and
Tomori
defense.
did miss time
Tomori,
himself. Yeah.
like Gabia's obviously not like
Milan quality. Yeah.
he's not equipped to play at this high level as a reliable player. So you're like, okay, yeah, man, we got to play Malik Chow. And it's like, lo and behold, you put him into a game against Tottenham, and he look what he does, right? And all of a
Incredible.
sudden,
Incredible.
it's like I just don't get it. It's almost as if like Pioli's waiting for like the final like, okay,
Yeah.
Adley, your turn. We have nobody else. Like if Krunic and Pobega goes down, it's like, okay, now we'll see Adley.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't get
When
if
you
he
have so
actually
many
wanted
issues
this.
in that area, it's not like these guys are like taking the job that you can't
No,
play them.
no.
They're struggling, just like the center backs were struggling. And it's like, you're right about that. And even again, with the Chow thing, we can go back. Again, this is just like my gripe with Pioli this season is like, and he's done this for a couple of years now where I've disagreed. Some I just like thought Hauger deserved a little bit more time. But again, like the left wing situation was different. But again, it's like, who's in front of him that's playing so well? Astor Frank's younger, more inexperienced than Adley, especially in top 5 leagues as they go. And Adley can't see the pitch. Adley was dropping performances against PSG that were phenomenal in the league last year. Like like genuinely, and he's playing on a relegation side.
I don't get
He's
it.
giving his effort. I think he's had the right attitude almost every time publicly that you see or hear from him,
And
even
he's
when
on
after the
social
match against.
media. Like I know social media can give this different perception, and a lot of these social media accounts are actually run by like their management and all that stuff.
Sure,
I get
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like you can get a sense like Adley's probably in a position where, they talked about it in January. There were reports that maybe he was going to get loaned out.
True
They obviously
Sampdoria,
kept him
yeah.
to Sampdoria, right? And I feel like it's one of those things where like it's it's a shame because I think look, you you spent what 8 million up on this player a summer early to be competitive, beat competition to get him in, and then you keep him on another season on loan at Bordeaux, and he plays well, and you're thinking, okay, 8 million, we really don't have a ton of money to spend. So
Yeah.
if you're going to spend 8 million on a player, like there's a good chance he's going to have a spot. He's going to have some involvement in at least more cup involvement, at least against some of the more mid to bottom of the table teams, and as far as rotation goes, right? And we
Mm,
just haven't seen it. I think we've seen it more with Charles de Ketelare. I get that,
yeah.
and he struggled, but I want to see more of Adley, and it's going to be one of those instances where the player leaves, and everyone's going to be like, "Man, like I just truly believe because I've
Mm,
seen enough of him in preseason. I've seen enough of him in certain games where I'm like, just give this guy a little bit more. Give him like if
yeah.
you gave him 3 to 4 games down the stretch of an end of a season, like let's say Milan were comfortably in top four, then I'm like, hey, like let's throw him on versus Verona, throw him on versus
Mm,
Sampdoria. But we're not. I think because of our results, every game has been dire. We have had to play our best guys and burn these guys and run them into the ground, and that really hasn't
mhm.
helped the situation. But I think it's not something that's going to change. I think there's going to be a lot of exits in the summer. Ali's going to get loaned out. Maybe there's something in the Bronx
I think they'll
contract.
loan him, yeah.
There's
Well,
been
Skira said Franks is done for. Him and Dest are just they're not even thinking about renewing those options. Dest was obvious.
it's just confusing to me though. Like it's just I understand like if you've made that judgment based off a pretty decent amount of
Yes.
minutes. How many minutes has Bronx played, Martino?
Well, Bronx
120?
Bronx Bronx did a good. I thought he did get a good run, but Pioli never trusted him after the Roma match. And to me, it's like I understand you have that option, and I had appearances behind it, but again, these are the consequences of last summer. These are the deals that you wanted to work out. A lot of them were risky. A lot of them don't give you guarantees. When you don't spend money, even CDK, we saw it. Who's the hit so far? It's Chow, who's going to be a phenomenal deal at this rate. He's going to come in for like under 10 million. That is genuinely going to be fantastic.
For a profile we absolutely needed.
He's
Like
going to be a starter next year. He's going to start at center back for Milan. He has the physical qualities. He has the technical ability, by the way. Mind you, he gets his hand on the ball better than any other center back. The qualities in which some of these players bring off the bench that also had hard times starting for Milan, they also have qualities that the current players that start don't have. Yassine Adli is a more creative player based off of chances created than a lot of midfielders on Milan right now. Aster
mhm.
Franks, Pobega. It doesn't commit as many stupid yellows. We look down, up and down the list of Adley. Adley post September 1st has a appearance with the Napoli game, 8 minutes, 60 minutes against Verona in a 2-1 victory. Had not played. That was on October 16th. Did not play again until March 4th against Fiorentina in a loss. He gets 7 minutes. It was the most random cameo. And then we see the 19 minutes
And
against
he came
Spezia.
in we
A
came in when
lot
we
of
were
the
chasing the game. Like
Exactly. It's
the game was
again
done at that point.
another thing what that Pioli has been doing. How many situations have these players been in where they could succeed? Just like CDK subbing him on against Sampdoria, good. That's a good situation. Sometimes, like towards the end of the match, I think Sampdoria were just like trying to prevent a worse score line, and you could see that by the way they
Yeah.
were playing. And then again, it's like, where's Adley in this? You don't need Brahim. Brahim did everything. Brahim had like 3 goal contributions in that match. Take him out. Rest him. You got a kid in here that could show that. For me, from what I understand and reading in between the lines here, Pioli doesn't trust these players. And I don't know what the reason is. Nobody truly knows what the reason is. He's not going to give us a straight up answer, but we don't even have a clue. And that's the problem. And for me, it's like, how do you approach next market? Because the way Pioli is talking in his comments after the game are that he is staying on. The way they are talking and wanting to
Yeah.
approach the striker situation, which again, I don't hate that Pioli is staying. I don't. But I do think if you miss out on top four, there's cause to fire him because of the way he handled a lot of games. The way he handled so many of these matches was utterly ridiculous. Some blame on management. Yeah, to an extent, but like, are we going to blame management for not having a lack of funds? But what Maldini was saying, he was correct. When you are given a task by your owners to find stars that are cheaper than the proven players that'll cost a ton, right? That's why they couldn't be in on Scamacca, because Scamacca was going for record money, would have been
40.
record money for Milan. That's
Yeah.
every time I hear it, Matt, it's incredible that this club, okay, people like to talk about the 2017 in that window and the money they spent. They still do not get the blue chip guy, the guy that you spend absurd amounts of money for. They only did it one time, and that was for Bonucci, and that was like, and they swapped them back in a year, and it was working out at one point. He was just being Bonucci and wanted to go back to Juve, whatever. That's fine, but you have to sometimes have a player, and it could have been Dybala, could have been someone else, and it's been proven with Zlatan that just get a guy that you can rely upon. It's obvious the manager would like something like that because he doesn't want to constantly grow with these guys. You raise your expectations. The more you bring in young players like that, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. You
Mhm.
just can't expect to keep winning. It's not sustainable. There's growing pains. We saw how Milan fell off in the prior chases to the Scudetto and top four because those young players were just not ready. There was too many mistakes.
Mhm.
Benacer was making those mistakes. Leao, I mean Tonali, the list goes on. Even Teo, as good as he was still not sharp defensively as he is now. There's just so many different things, and when you take the approach that ownership wants to take, this is what happens with some of these results, mixed with injuries, mixed with Pioli not rotating properly. There's just so many things, and that's why you fail from the top to the bottom, not just from the bottom. And I think that's where we could really leave this. What's your confidence level in top four at this point? Say, I guess we'll go with a conservative number for this points deduction with Juventus because there is one coming. Say it's 9. What like and then that's ahead of playing Juve and Verona. What is your confidence level?
Um, 6,
That's pretty
which is not
decent.
which is not that bad because given the fact that you're against Juventus away, um, and you're against Verona,
Verona at home.
who
At
have
least it's at home.
who has something still, but they still have something to fight for, right? And we haven't had success against a lot of the teams, in that sort of bracket of the bottom 5 to 6, right? So,
Ugh,
I would I
God.
would say I would say 6, for the simple fact that regardless of what happens with the sentencing punishment for
Yeah.
Juventus, despite all that, I mean they've proven they have resolve as a team. They've proven they have character. I will say that. Even earlier in the season when they had all the uncertainty, Allegri had some really poor results, both domestically and in the Champions League. Everyone was saying he needs to go, they need to fire him. They had all
Mhm,
the stuff going on with the investigation. And lo and behold, they're right now in second place. And they've
mhm.
been able to kind of navigate these turbulent waters throughout the season, get results in unconvincing fashion. But Dusan Vlahovic is playing better. He's getting some goals. So I think this team, that despite what may happen, Juventus are going to come to play. They're not going to be a lay down. They just
No,
got
they
disappointed
can't.
in the champion, and not the Champions League, Europa League,
Europa League.
right?
Suso, shout out.
And there's still a lot of chatter behind the scenes about Gentoli and the directors and what's going on with that. So amidst all this, Allegri has proven this season so far that he can block out the noise at least for a single game and get Juventus to play effective football that is catered to the way Allegri wants to play. So that's going to be a very difficult match, regardless. With all that being said, with all how inconsistent we've been the entire season, I just can't with a clear conscience give Milan the nod. I mean, last week we were just talking about the Spezia game and we were like, they're not getting top four, right? So I can't just come here and say, oh yeah, 8. Like I can't. I'll give them 6. I'll give them 6 on the basis of the fact that again we're going to get some sort of punishment. I'm assuming for Juventus that would put Milan into that top 4. Everyone would essentially slide up. But still, like Milan, even with getting help by other teams, they still weren't able to take care of their own business. So it doesn't
No.
really mean all that much to me if they go and shit the bed versus Juventus and shit the bed versus Verona, and Atalanta win out and Inter win out, or Inter has to play Atalanta. But you get the point, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
now we're in the conversation of we need help. So a lot of still has to go Milan's way for them to get top four.
Not
I'm 60%.
that much. Not that much, but you're right though. You never again, we've said it for years now when we were fighting for these top four. You don't want anyone else to take care of your business.
No.
If you
look what happened with Napoli a couple years ago.
Bro, they win
they had to play Verona.
They win 2-3. Yep. And Fiorentina. Yep. You're lagging a little bit.
What's happening here, but they should be good against Verona. They should, because it is at home. That does help. But you almost hope that Verona, their fate, I don't know how the table shapes up and how the math works out, but you hope that almost as if that they secure or they know their fate before that game on the final match day.
Yeah, so
I don't want to play. I don't want Simone Verdi coming back with a goal, 2 goals against us, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Spezia and Lecce would have to win their next matches. That would put them 4 and 6 points ahead of Verona, and Verona would have to lose their next one in order for them to be relegated mathematically. And then they would have nothing to play for on the final day. But don't remember, I believe it was Cagliari. When Milan, it was the second to last match day, Cagliari found out that they were not getting relegated. You remember this. They did not get relegated, but they played and sat back as 0-0 draw against Milan.
Yep.
It was just that game. And then I was convinced no top 4. Yeah. But anyways, there's a lot of possibilities happening. Hope is alive for Milan to get back into the Champions League in multiple ways. We'll see what ends up happening. I'll do you one better and say 7 out of 10. Again, Milan, worst case, draw is okay with the tiebreaker head-to-head, but you want wins here. It's going to be very difficult away to Juve. But there's just something, I don't know, there's something about Juventus at this point. There's so much uncertainty. We'll see what happens. They said they felt that it was a big issue when they got that initial -15. We'll see what happens, but I'll just say it right now. If Milan are able to get results, a win against Verona and a win against Juventus in these final 2 matches, Milan will be playing in the Champions League next year. Make no question about it. I think they do that because the point deduction is coming in. Milan win these next 2 games, they are in the Champions League. There's the math doesn't work otherwise, guys. They can't. Like, there's a team that's falling out of the top 4. Okay, so say it's 9 right now, just to do the math on the tape, because people are still questioning on how this is possible. I don't know how people can't do the math. But Juve right now, 69 points prior to the Empoli match. Say whatever, they can get something. We'll say we give Juve even the 3 points. They get a -12 or a -9. They would be behind Milan at that point. Milan win out. Juve could do nothing. And even then, to say there's instances in which they could match up on points. Milan, unless they lose 3-0, will be going to take that tiebreaker over them. If they get a draw, they have the tiebreaker over Juve. If they beat them, they obviously have it because they beat them 2-0 in the first time this season. We'll see what ends up happening. Lazio could slip up as well. Inter could also still slip up. That's a very tough match against Atalanta. There is faith that we have to keep. I'm trying to be positive. It's a new thing for me. I'm usually very pessimistic. We'll see what goes down. Anything else, Santangelo, just plug all your work and all that stuff prior to ending up here.
Well, we haven't had much conversation about the Rafael Leao renewal, which is happening. It's supposed to be Monday, so at the time we're recording this on Sunday night in New York, New Jersey. Right. So yeah, Rafael Leao expect to officially renew his contract with Milan until 2028 tomorrow. This has been kind of in the works for months. Earlier last week, we got the big news from Fabrizio Romano, multiple reports confirming that we finally got it. Maldini said it's 100%. It's just a matter of when we make the announcement. So it's great for Milan. It's very encouraging. If you look, I'll say this. I know we try to look on the brighter side of things. If in 2 weeks' time we look and we're in the Champions League,
mm-hmm.
we ended the season, which, well, this is already formalized, but ended the season with a Champions League semifinal run. We got Leao renewed before the summer, so we don't have that
Yeah.
hanging over us, and
Looming.
that's the main focus in the market. All things considered, you get out and dodge, given how difficult the season has been, and you go to work on the market. They seem to be very actively involved in Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Kamada. So I'm hoping that
Oh no, lagged at the fucking climax.
the 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 the, the blueprints there are ready for us to have a pretty progressive summer.
If you were able to get that guy's Matt's connection, I think kind of bugged out a little bit, but his point was just to get the blueprint down ready for the summer, making the Champions League 3 years in a row, and then
I
on
don't know what
top of
happened.
it, wrapping up Rafael
My
Leao. It's okay,
phone's
it's
been in
okay.
the
Don't worry. I'll
same
wrap it
spot the
up.
entire
I'll
time.
wrap it up for you. Don't even stress. But yeah, go follow Matt.
Dude, I don't know
At
what's
Matt
going on.
underscore. Just quiet. Just let me wrap it up. You don't have to keep talking. At Matt underscore Santangelo on Twitter. Just go follow him as well on Milan Brothers. Him and his brother Nick run it. That is why it is called that. And then again, subscribe to the YouTube channel over here if you have not already. We're very close to 2,000 subs. As you can see, Matt is just laughing and lagging at the same time. He can never figure this stuff out. Poor guy. But again, we appreciate every single one of you that tune in. We will try and add an audio version to this as soon as possible. We are just trying to figure out whatever we can with this. I greatly appreciate everything. And Matt is too. Follow me on Instagram at Martino Puccio. Follow us both on Twitter at the @ that you see underneath. And again, thank you so much, guys. We will see you in a couple days.